Well, Manchester United lost their last game, but they go into the game against Newcastle United with confidence, I think, having been buoyed by the performance, Crook.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they lost much in defeat at Villa Park, but what they did lose was Bruno Fernandes, who's going to be a massive loss. And actually, this will settle the debate because he's a player who divides opinion, even amongst some Manchester United fans. But I think this is going to be a glimpse into what life is like without Fernandes. They aren't the same team. They don't create as many opportunities. Obviously, his numbers in terms of goals and assists are there to be shot at. So I think he is going to be a real loss. Lisandro Martinez came in against Aston Villa and joined Ugarte in midfield, did well, but doesn't bring the same dynamism that Fernandes does. And they've got 8 players out now, Manchester United, for this game. No Kobe Mainoo either, plus Ahmad and Bumo away on AFCON duty. Casemiro will be back, which will be a bonus, but they're stretched. So as much as the performance was positive against Aston Villa, I worry about this game because of the absentees. I'd rather they were playing Wolves first than Newcastle, and obviously Wolves is the next game.
Yeah. What did you make of the use of his bench on Sunday, Scott, bringing on Fletcher and Lacey just a few days after being openly critical of other academy players?
Oh, I think he wasn't throwing the blanket over every single academy player. I think he was doing that on certain individuals. Maybe there's a culture there at Manchester United where suddenly you come through the academy and you think you're an absolute star. And I definitely think there's a thing where the academy has to sort out. You know, it wouldn't have happened under Sir Alex Ferguson. It doesn't happen at Liverpool. And yet at United, there's been no real success. I know cricket can chuck in major trophies, but you know what I mean about chasing Premier League titles and Champions League as well since Fergie's gone. The culture, I think, is not where it should be. And I think we live in a world now where, for a long time, apprentices, talking about conditions. I was 15, 16 years of age going in at Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, cleaning boots, and that's fine. And I think anyone you speak to,
Absolutely.
even 10 years younger than me, would be saying the same thing. It helped make them. And to take that away, and now you've got to be careful how you speak to them. Of course, you've got to be careful how you speak to people, but you've also got to be tough. This is elite at the very top end professional football, and they've got to be able to handle that. And I go back to what I said in the previous pod. I think Ramarin's absolutely right. There should be an attitude of, okay, you think like that, I'm going to make you change your mind. Where I do think he was wrong in he's saying, I'm not always right. Maybe I'm wrong here. You're not wrong here. At this moment in time, you're not wrong. So you make sure that you change my mind so that you're very much a positive. Because at this moment in time, I'm absolutely right.
One of the problems that Manchester United have had is, I'm going to say goal scoring, but they scored 4 goals against Bournemouth in their last home game. But they did have a lot of chances in that game against Aston Villa at the weekend, but didn't quite finish them off. Cunha scored one, but could have had another. Sesko just doesn't look like he's up to full speed yet. So without Brian Mbeumo in the team, Mason Mount is very useful, but doesn't score a lot of goals. There aren't a lot, and no Bruno Fernandes, there aren't a lot of goals in that team, Crook, is there? And that's going to be a bit of a difficulty against a Newcastle team who do know where the net is.
Yeah, and that's what worries me. And actually, I'll go back to this fixture last season. It was almost a year to the day. And that was a low point for Manchester United. They got absolutely slaughtered at home by Newcastle. Joshua Zirkzee was booed off by his own fans. And I don't think he's the answer to any kind of goal-scoring issue. There's a lot of interest from Roma for him in the window. I think United are reluctant just in terms of numbers. But I personally think actually that move might be best for all concerned. Back to Italy where he played his best football. But United are going to need to sign a replacement for that to happen. And you're right about Šeško. He's had 2 huge chances in the first half. All right, good save from Martinez with a one-on-one, but I think a striker in the peak of confidence and form takes that away. The second one, the touch was just appalling. And even in the second half, Mason Mount whips a brilliant ball across the 6-yard line. He's just too slow to react, Benjamin Šeško. And he doesn't look like someone who is suited to Premier League football at the moment. It's early days. He's only young. But is he an upgrade on Rasmus Højlund? I'm not seeing it at this moment in time.
Well, interestingly, you mentioned Mason Mount there, and I said he doesn't offer too much in terms of scoring goals, but boy, does he create a lot of chances, and he is terrific. He's been playing very, very well for Manchester United. I think he looks like a man reborn, and I always thought he would come good for Manchester United. I know I've been talking about him for years and years and years. I have a little nickname for him, Baby Jesus, and Crook always thinks that I'm a little bit over the top in terms of...
Topical for this time of year.
over egging his abilities, but I do think he's a terrific player. When he's fully fit, he makes a massive difference, and you can see that, I think, now. I suppose at the flip side of the coin, in terms of Sieshko and Gyökeres, who we'll talk about a little bit later, I'm sure, Voltemada and Visser, both of them scoring goals for Newcastle United. It brought in at great expense. Obviously, they had to wait for Visser, but he scored within 9 minutes of his first start, Scott, and he might get the nod here.
He might. I still don't think he's not 100% fit. So maybe Eddie will look at that and say, okay, he might be good for Voltemada. Let's not forget Voltemada scored that own goal against Sunderland and then scored 2 goals against Chelsea. So he's back in form again, and I'm really pleased for him. So I personally would perhaps start with him and then use Visser to come off the bench and his pace to go in behind when perhaps United are a little bit tired. Because again, one, I think it's a fitness thing, but two, I think the tactics would go nicely. But this is a good time for Newcastle to be playing United for the reasons that Crookie gave. Let's not forget, though, Newcastle are terrible away from home.
Yeah,
only one win in the Premier League all season. So maybe if you're going to be playing Newcastle, now's the time to be playing them as well. So this could lend itself to a lot of poor defending, a lot of goals, and a really exciting game.
Yeah, they're so inconsistent, Newcastle, at the moment, especially away from home. And even when they have put in good performances, there's been moments in games where they've then wobbled. I mean, go back to the match that I was at recently in Leverkusen, where they got themselves into a winning position and ended up not winning the game because they switched off very, very late in it. They lose control of matches very quickly. They're sometimes a little bit over chaotic, I think. Why can't they put together a 90-minute performance, Crook?
Well, like United, the squad is stretched. I actually would have fancied them to beat Chelsea at the weekend without all the absentees, and then when I saw who was playing and more importantly who wasn't, I thought, well, actually, maybe this might end in a draw, because at home, whatever team they put out, they're still difficult to play against. And we keep trotting out the stat. We do it every time we speak about Newcastle, Barcelona, Arsenal, Liverpool, the only teams to win at St James's Park. I don't think you can underestimate the role the crowd play in that, and the intensity that they create rubs off on the players. Away from home, obviously, they don't have that, and I think they feel their absentees a little bit more. And I just don't think defensively they're strong enough at this moment in time, and that's partly because of who they haven't got in, but it wouldn't surprise me if they've got funds to spend in January if they look at a centre-back. What about someone like Nathan Ake, who Eddie Howe knows very well from Bournemouth, doesn't seem to have much of a future at Manchester City? I've actually written about the prospect of him going back to the Vitality Stadium in the upcoming window, but it wouldn't surprise me if Eddie Howe is keeping tabs on him as well.
Well, interesting, isn't it? Because they probably got enough money. I mean, they're owned by a sovereign wealth fund, and they've also got a little bit of that Isaac money still swilling around. But the issue they've got again is PSR. Are they compliant? Are they going to be able to spend during the January transfer window? They definitely need some sort of backup defensively, because Sven Botman, for as good as he is, he just can't stay fit. And if you haven't got the ability to be available on a regular basis, then they've got to look at somebody else. That's why they brought in Malik Chow. Cher's getting towards the end of his career. Burns a cracking player, and he's all heart, all power. If Newcastle want to be playing Champions League football regularly, they're going to need to upgrade that area eventually, I think. It seems like a big window, I think, for Newcastle United, this one and the next one, Scott.
Yeah, and January's always difficult. It's always difficult. You have to play over the odds. I mean, I assume with the money they brought in for Isak, that I know they spent money, but they should be reasonably okay in terms of PSR. And that's the problem, not the fact that they haven't got the money. But it's just a tough window. It's a really tough window. I think you've hit the nail on the head there as to why they need a good centre-half. And again, I go back to whenever I talk about Chelsea, that kind of experienced centre-half. When you're away from home, you can calm everyone down. You can bring them all in and say, we're going to make ourselves compact and organised. That's what they need at the moment, because, Crookie's spot on at home. Almost whoever they put out, they're a difficult side to play against. Away from home, there is that mentality issue.